Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we like to talk about the things that are weighing on your minds. My name is Don Marshall. I'm a big fat chubby guy living in sunny Hollywood, and today I am your wall-mounted fuck machine of knowledge, pounding ecstasy into your brain.
Oh, my.
I think I broke Michael.
Oh,
That's one way to start the show.
oh yeah, I got to follow that. Well, not. I don't
Yeah,
want to.
go for
I don't
it.
want to get too close. I don't want him to get too close behind me. Actually. Hi, I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. Golly. Yes. Well, I have a nice cup of tea, and I think it would be lovely to watch a very socially distanced video of what Don was just alluding to.
Oh boy. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub here in West Hollywood, and I am, I guess, the pearls being clutched around your neck, not anywhere else. And this is going to be a weird one.
Yep. And my name is Michael. I'm a chaser, and I was initially excited to get into this episode, but Don has scared that out of me. So
Good for you, Don. Don, I'm way behind you on this. Well, behind you.
All right. For those of you who haven't picked up on it yet, this episode is all going to be about sex toys. We even have a special guide coming on a little later on in the episode to help us wander the world of the various sex toys available.
so much wandering.
I don't know.
We're going to get up in
Everybody.
there. We're going to get up in there.
Michael might take this out, but I just want to say to the listener, the bizarre energy on this is because we have already recorded our main segment first. So we're kind of high, whereas I feel like normally we're like...
Yeah, we sort of ramp
yeah.
up to it.
We're all we're all well lubricated.
In true
Yes.
Big Fat Gay podcast energy, we're going to bum you out a little at the start before
Yeah.
we get into the sex toys, because
Yeah,
you gotta
that's
have...
right. You have to have your vegetables before you get to your sex toy. I mean, your dessert. Yeah, your dessert.
Brace your assholes.
So, kicking off our bummer of a pop culture segment is a story about a Fox station news anchor who was suspended after he tweeted he was annoyed that obese people were getting vaccinated early.
Good job, douchebag.
Yeah, and so basically, he tweeted, "I'm annoyed obese people of all ages get priority vaccine access before all essential workers. When most stayed home, we went into work every day last March, April, and May, and every day since, putting ourselves and loved ones at risk. Vaccinate all essential workers, then obese." And then he deleted that.
And
And
he deleted it and then issued an apology tweet, which people were not too quick to accept, because he also tweeted that he only took his own tweet down because he didn't feel like arguing with people on the internet over it, which really kind of undercuts your apology.
I mean, that's a traditional Republican apology. Like, you know, I'm never sorry for what I said. I'm sorry for the way you heard what I said. You know, it's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think part of the reason Blake McCoy also got a lot of flack was, you know, he's openly gay, and people were like, okay, so like what, you know, what comorbidities are okay to you? Like what do you approve of as high risk?
Yeah, I think it just goes to show that, I mean, yeah, he's openly gay, but he's also a rich white dude, and there's a lot of privilege that comes along with that, and the rules don't apply to him the way that they apply to other people. And you know, I think there's at least a slight positive side to the story, which is that he got suspended. So there was at least some repercussion for him being a total douche nozzle.
Do your part,
And
get
just
vaccinated, and don't let, I don't know, local news anchors bring you down. Continuing the theme of kind of bummer trash science is this piece, which actually Dan pointed out because someone tweeted about it, and I found the story. So during National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, Gwyneth Paltrow was talking about the benefits of intuitive fasting as a healing regime as she's been recovering from COVID.
Wait, isn't that when you should be eating?
No. There's intuitive eating, which is good, and then there's intermittent fasting, which I I personally think is bad because it's basically
Disordered
starving
eating.
yourself
Yeah.
and disordered eating. But, you know, you do you. But then she has smushed these also into the like a Brundle fly horror that is not
Intuitive
not a
fasting.
thing.
Yeah, no.
So what is intuitive fasting? Like, what does that mean? Does it mean anything? Is she just starving herself?
So she said she's mainly on a ketogenic and plant-based diet, which once again, those are kind of like, I mean, it's, not a thing, with no sugar or alcohol. She fasts every day until 11, which I'm assuming.
Yeah, in the
that's
old
AM.
days, we called that skipping breakfast,
And then she takes infrared saunas.
which is she sits in front of a heat lamp.
That sounds uncomfortable.
But the National Health Service in England had something to say about this.
Yeah, they basically they said, Gwyneth Paltrow, don't take advice from Gwyneth Paltrow and other celebrities peddling nonsense instead of actual science, because all this is her recommendation is based on stuff she thought of, and because she's Gwyneth Paltrow, people are going to do it because she's skinny and white, so obviously it works. So it's just this convoluted way of people having a platform for something they are completely unqualified to have a platform about.
Let's get this bummer van on the road.
Yeah. Oh, because
Roll on down to Fat Watch.
so once in our theme of dragging down, the theme of Fat Watch this year has kind of been looking at kind of fat activism within the fat community. And I thought it was important this week to kind of go back to our running theme of talking about intersectionality and allyship. People have probably seen on social media people talking about hashtag Stop Asian Hate and the surge in hate crimes against Asian Americans and members of the Pacific Islander community. There have been over 2,800 reports of hate crimes committed against these communities, which is a 1,900% increase from 2019.
Thank you, Trump.
Yes, and specifically kind of we've seen a big spike in kind of since December. So I found some resources to share. If you follow us on Instagram, you've already seen that I've posted these in our story. But the first comes from Patrick in the World on Instagram, who's collected basically resources on what you can do to help specific groups. Basically, as a white ally, going back to, silence is violence. If you see something, say something. Supporting Asian American businesses, supporting Asian American organizations, diversifying your social feed. And he shared some really great resources. Phone numbers to be aware of if you witness anti-Asian American hate crimes. I also shared some resources from Goldhouse CO on Instagram, and they kind of talk about the approach of weeding out and planting seeds. So, as allies, we have work to do. I'm going to share these on the website. Once again, they're also on Instagram.
Yeah.
And just do the work.
Apropos of all of this, we've been getting a few listener mails asking us to talk about racism in the gay community, in the Chub Chaser community, and we really want to tackle that. On the other hand, we're 3.5 white guys, and it just doesn't seem genuine to us for us to talk about, racism's really bad, and have a conversation among ourselves about that problem. So just want to give a shout out to the fact that, yes, we are aware of this. We want to talk about this, and we're in the process of lining up some guests to come on and people of color to express their points of view so that their voices get centered rather than ours.
Yes. There's being an ally, and then there's also just knowing when to step aside. I think I talked about this somewhat recently in an episode, this little webcomic of the frog and the cat.
Yes.
And this frog saying there's not many stories about frogs, and there's a lot of stories about cats, and the cat saying oh my God, you're right. I need to tell your story. And then it's a cat on a stage dressed as a frog in a spotlight, in a dramatic pose. So don't be a cat. We got some listener mail about this, and it was a couple weeks ago. And then we've actually gotten 2 letters addressing the same thing since then. So it's on our radar. We're working on it. That episode is going to come out later in March as we finalize guests.
Mm-hmm.
And now Michael set up the smooth segue.
3, 2, 1, segue.
You know, we're the masters of segues here at the Big Fat Gay Podcast, but
We're so good at it.
yeah, but there's no good segue here. This is the like car crash jump scare in a non-scary movie. But instead of a car crash, it's sex toys.
Yay!
Surprise!
Yes.
No one expects the big fat gay sex toys.
Yeah. And so, okay, the inspiration for this was me doing my late night Instagram cool down, and I saw a post about April Flores, who was the first like model for I don't know, best way to describe it, because I had to describe this several times to Dan and Don and Michael, a fat fleshlight.
And that's fleshlight, not flesh.
Yes, like the synthetic vagina sex toy that you fuck that also looks like a flashlight. That is not a flashlight.
Don is so confused right now.
And so this prompted a kind of discussion in our like weekly call about like, are there kind of fat gay sex toys? What would that look like? And those aren't a thing. That's disappointment. Sadly, listener, there is not a I tried to describe like a dildo with a fat pad.
But just to be clear, we're talking about a sex toy that would somehow simulate or emulate having sex with a fat person.
Yes. Okay. And this kind of prompted a like just kind of general episode about sex toys and a beginner's guide to sex toys. And I naturally thought of my lifelong friend Bree, who I've mentioned before in the podcast. Bree's had a wonderfully varied career as an academic, activist, and writer. In addition to having a master's in psychology, they have facilitated. God, I always do this. They have facilitated. They have facilitated workshops that help people find their voice by making zines and empowering them to love their fat bodies. They've been a roller derby player and coach, an open mic organizer, and a sex educator. Their most recent project is a service called Healed AF, or Healed as Fuck. It's a low-cost option for anyone seeking emotional and spiritual support that centers around collaboration, empowerment, magic, and community. So welcome, Bree.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Yay.
Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So you guys have been friends for a while now. Did you guys connect over sex toys, or is that just a side benefit that happened?
It's a side benefit.
Might want to rephrase that connecting over sex toys.
Well, no,
no, I like the phrasing. I'm okay with that.
So Bree and I worked together as RAs in college, but we met through OkCupid.
I forget this all the time.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't think I knew that. Did I know that?
Yeah.
Yes, I knew that.
Bree messaged me like, "Hey, you look fun, and you like. It looks like we go to the same college, and like, I'm looking for gay friends." A tale as old as time. But let's get down and dirty. Let's get the people clutching their wheels, screaming, get to the sex toys. So, Bree, what would you... It's okay. Someone is, completely new to sex toys.
Someone is completely new to sex toys.
I know squat.
Those
I know
dinos.
nothing about sex toys other than they exist. I'm the guy who wanders through sex toy shops going like, wait, why is it wall mounted? Like that.
Squat is actually an advanced sex toy position right now. So you're addressing Don now.
Yes.
I hope it didn't make it more awkward.
Hi. So, as someone who is confused about sex toys, I am a large man. I don't know if I need to be worried about anything with certain sex toys. Like, do they make harnesses for someone like me? What should I be thinking about with sex? I don't even know where to begin.
Beginner's guide.
Oh, man. What a big question. Because there's so many, right? There's so many places for the sex toys to go. There are so many. There are so many. There's even things that aren't like for, I guess, like what you'd consider traditional stimulation that are still sex toys, if you get into like harnesses and ropes and stuff like that.
Would that not be considered a sex toy generally?
It is, but I guess I'm just addressing the vast array of them and what exactly we need to like be discussing. I will say though, like regardless of anything, when I talk to people about sex toys, the first thing I like to talk about is just being aware of the materials, because there are so many different materials of sex toys, and a lot of people will say there's a hard no on things like rubber and stuff, which I agree with to an extent because they're not as hygienic. There's this thing you have to think about with sex toys and hygiene is like whether the sex toys are porous or non-porous. And if they're porous, that means that it's way harder to keep them super duper clean. And so toys that are like the rubbers and like the jellies and that kind of stuff, those are most likely going to be those porous ones that are hard to keep clean. So it's hard for me to put a hard no on them because a lot of times they tend to be the toys that are less expensive. And so I would hate to tell someone you're not allowed to have sex toys because you can't afford them. So I like people to just be aware of the hygiene aspect of materials. And also some people will just straight up have allergic reactions to those types of materials. And you also want to be aware you're getting them from like a reputable source because there can be like phthalates and stuff in some of those
Big
materials.
gyms use sex toy.
But
Why does this place smell like vinegar? So, as someone who doesn't know a ton about sex toys, I know about dildos, I know about vibrators, I've heard about them, but that's pretty much where my sex toy knowledge ends. So, like, what would you say are some of the more popular sex toys for men? Let's start with that. Like,
pretty much anything you can put your dick in. Like
a potato,
like
Joe or Eddie, or
like there's very many of the, like most people know them as Fleshlights, but that's a brand. When other brands create them, they're called strokers. So strokers tend to be a big one if you're trying to put your dick in something. And I mean, there's all sorts of butt stuff. When I talk about butt stuff, I mean, the main thing beyond materials is just making sure that it's safe for anal, which is usually an item that the base of it is going to be wider than the widest point of the plug or the dildo or whatever it is. Because there have definitely been instances of things getting sucked up on in there because the base was not wide enough to prevent that from happening. So whatever you put in your butt, just make sure that the base of it is wider than the thickest portion of what is being inserted.
I think we should also point out, because so part of this, galaxy brain figuring out a way to talk about this from, fat sex toys that don't exist is someone who is a beginner and who may think that they're too fat for sex toys. Like in terms of accessibility, the benefit of something with a base is, Don was talking about, I think, about mounted things with suction cups that will allow you to reach some areas that you might not be able to easily reach on your own.
You could back into it. You can sit on it.
Yeah, that was number one on my list. I have a little note. I've been keeping track of ideas as they've come up over the last week. And number one, that's even from my own personal experience. Before I even knew shit about nothing, like I found myself a suction cup dildo and I was fucking the walls, fucking the, like over, like I didn't have a headboard because I was 19. And so you can just like put that up against the wall and then you can be laying on your bed and like scooch up against it. That was a really good way to have accessible solo sex with a dildo. You could put it in the shower, but I'm always like, be careful in the shower. Like, it's fine, but be careful.
You mean like just slipping?
Yeah, mostly just slipping. Suction cup. You can put suction cups on the floor. I've personally had a hard time with the suction cup on the floor thing, but other people have been able to put suction cups on the floor. But I could imagine, oh my God, I didn't even write this down, but I could imagine you could even get like a stool or like, I'm just seeing like what I have. Like I have this like thing at the end of my bed, like a little
bench.
You could probably stick it on that and sit on it. Yeah, I love the suction cup toys. And there's not just suction cup dildos. They make suction cup strokers now too. So that's an option. But I also...
That got me thinking, actually.
Yeah.
Trevor's just got lost in his imagination.
I'm just picturing Bree's point of view when she said that, of watching 4 different heads all cock 45 degrees to the left at the same time.
Yeah, they exist. I wouldn't be surprised if there's suction cup butt stuff too. But some other things, like as for toys that like already exist that can help with accessibility, there are plenty of toys that have like longer handles. And I found for me that's also been more helpful for accessibility stuff. So instead of having like a vibrator or dildo you have to hold in your hand, like there's some like a lot of people know the Hitachi wand. It's huge and powerful, but it has that big handle. And there are very many massagers like that have the handle. And there's other toys that have a handle too. So that can help with accessibility. There's also fuck machines, which I think they're really expensive and sometimes loud. But if you want something that's not human to do the work for you, fuck machines exist. And a lot of times they have suction cups too to help them stay in place. And you could put them on your bench or on your table or wherever you want them. And they'll do the damn thing for you.
So I have to say, I don't know if it's like, I have seen ads for these kind of like before pop-up blockers existing or ad blockers existed. And the ones I've seen, I don't know if it's just because, back in my day, though they looked terrifying and like there was a lot to it.
That was the first one I saw on the sex store that I saw wall mounted. It looked like a jackhammer.
Yeah.
And it looked like it was angry at me. Like,
I think that's sold as a benefit to some people who buy them.
Yeah, it's probably not a beginner's toy.
Unless you have a concrete ass.
Yeah. And then you mentioned April Flores's toy was a stroker, but I remember she also had like what they call like torsos or just like parts. And there are all types of those too. So what's cool about those there's sometimes I've seen a few of them where they do have like like dicks. I guess their bodies. I could just say dicks. But then there's a lot of them where you do the penetrating. And what brought that up for me in terms of accessibility is just being able to like have something larger that is stable that you can even like hold on to if you need to for your own stability and like have sex with it. So that, as far as like toys that actually exist, that's what came to mind. But then I also started thinking about like harnesses and rope in terms of support. Like I was thinking about like if somebody needed support, like keeping their legs spread, or if they wanted their legs in a certain position, or whatever in a certain position, like rope you could do so many things with rope. And then it could maybe even turn into a stimulating experience if you get into the rope for more than like an accessibility issue. And harnesses too, but harnesses I definitely would be careful with, just because they're not like all size fits all kind of things.
Are you talking about a harness like that I might wear to a leather event, or are you talking about more like a sling that I would get fucked in?
Yeah, more like a sling probably. Like I'm thinking like there's I've even seen like basically like a strap around the leg that you could put a dildo through. There's ones that you can put on the door or in your bed. Like there's those under the bed like strap restraint systems, things like that. And the things that are usually for like wrists and ankles might be like safer for a wider group, but there's other things that are like for other parts of the body that might not like have as varied of like size, availability. So that's why I actually just go back to rope, because I think rope, you get as much rope as you need, as long as it's, made for sex, because you don't want rope that's going to like hurt your skin. But you could tie as many ropes together to make as big of a whatever as you want.
Actually, that's a really good point, because I think, I don't know about most people, but when I think of rope, when you say rope, I'm thinking like going down to Home Depot in this horrible, rough, grating, like block and tackle rope. And clearly you don't mean that.
No.
So help us picture like what kind of rope this is or what it's made of or what it's like. Is it like sometimes I'm thinking maybe like a jump rope because it has that soft cottony texture, but I don't know.
I was about to say, let me go grab it and show you, but this is an audio medium. I mean, if you just go to the sex shop, the rope there is more than likely going to be safe for your skin. It is definitely softer, and a lot of times it's much thinner than like a rope that you're going to find at Home Depot or something. And usually they're way funner and cuter and colorful. You can get all kinds of colors of ropes and do whatever you want with them. A lot of people use them for fashion too, like make a rope harness corset situation and go to the club. Well, one other thing I forgot to mention, I didn't write on my list, but there's also like position pillows that you can get to help you get into different positions and to stay in those positions comfortably. And then I haven't tried this, but I read something in like a Caring for Our Fat Bodies Facebook group about like bathroom stuff accessibility. And a lot of people were sharing about having these like long grabby things to help them with accessibility in the bathroom. And I was surprised to hear that those had enough grip to do what you need to do. And I was thinking, if that works for the bathroom, I could imagine that you could use one of those long grabby things to help you get to wherever you're trying to get with your toys and stuff too.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Is there any place that you would point somebody, like somebody hears one of the things that you're talking about here and it's like, okay, and let's say it's a fatter listener. Is there a specific place you would point them to go to look for things, or is it sort of just go to any place that sells sex toys and you just kind of have to hunt and peck, or is there a specific spot that's maybe more welcoming or accessible or custom tailored?
Is the internet sanitary? Yeah.
There's somebody actually who is a fat woman that she has a company called Curvy Girl Lingerie, but she also does, I think, like toy reviews and stuff. And I would probably point people towards her website to look for things, at least if you're looking for someone speaking from a fat positive lens. I'm really bummed to not have too many more. Like I would honestly just probably trust like queer spaces tend to be safer for fat positive stuff than straight spaces.
Okay, since we have you here, I have to ask you. I am looking at a toy on here that I can't figure out what you would possibly do with. It clearly is butt-oriented, I'm assuming, but it's called the Trident, and it looks suspiciously like a little uterus that you're supposed to use sexually somehow.
I know what that is. I have an Aneros. I don't have that one because that one's, I think they kind of recommend it as like a more experienced one, and I have a delicate butthole.
So what we're looking at here, guys, is it's a white plastic device that is black. It looks sort of like a mutant penis that's lumpy and pear-shaped on top, that splits at the bottom into two little arms that come up and hug you.
It's not, I don't know. I don't think it looks that, but maybe it's because it's like, it's in my drawer. Well, so it's not that weird to me.
It looks like the handle to a rapier.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, yes. If a sword came out of the bottom, I would totally think that's what you were supposed to use it for.
With a cross guard that curls back up onto the handle. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So,
But
what do we do with this?
It's very curvy and undulating.
You put it in your booty, and it stimulates your prostate, and you kind of, I don't know, clench and unclench, and it finds your body's natural rhythm. So it's a way to kind of, I'm doing stuff with my finger right now. Once again, audio medium, but it stimulates your prostate, and you can just let it do its thing. And there's people that have achieved orgasm just from work using the Aneros and their body's natural rhythm. I like to use it as like a supplement. I have another product endorsement, I guess, that is a little I don't know, it's unusual, so it's like discreet, but also I feel like tempting because it's so strange. So it's Tenga is a Japanese sex toy company, and they have these things called the Egg series. and they come in little half dozen packs.
Oh, they're bouncing.
And it is a stroker, but it's kind of like so it looks like a little egg, and then it has a texture inside, and it is very flexible and stretchy. So you basically put your dick in it, and it's soft, there's some texture.
They have a very helpful video on their homepage so you can kind of get a sense of how these are used.
Yeah.
I'm just like looking at the Pleasure Chest site and like I'm giggling too. Like I started in the adult world like 9 years ago and I still giggle. So just putting that out there that like, I don't think this stuff ever stops being a little bit funny.
I just think I don't know. I think it's good to approach it with some humor and lightness and just like, because I don't know, you always discover something new, and especially as time goes on and I don't know, technology advances. I mean, I think the most interesting thing I've seen at a sex toy shop on Santa Monica here was a silicone foot, but it had a vagina where the ankle was.
Oh, that's amazing. You could fuck the foot.
Yeah.
Somebody loves that. Somebody really, really loves that.
I've seen plenty of weird.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of weird body part toys where it's like the body part and then a vagina randomly somewhere. There's one where it's like boobs and then the vagina is like just in between the boobs. Yep. And I'm like, okay, go for it.
There's like we've been over sex toys for the dick. We've been over sex toys for the vagina. We've been over sex toys for the butt. The body's a big place, right? Like, are there? I mean, I know there are nipple clips, but like, are there toys for the full body, or would that no longer be a sex toy? Like, is there any non-genital specific sex toy?
Yeah, those things you'd probably find, they'd be probably labeled as like BDSM stuff, but they don't have to be. Like I'm thinking things like feather ticklers, that's used all over the body. And pretty much any other, like something that could be traditionally used as a spanking device could probably be used to simulate any part of the body, as long as you know how to safely use it. That's the one thing when you start getting into spankers and stuff, you just want to make sure you know how to safely hit people, because there's definitely parts of the body that you don't want to be hitting too hard.
Yeah, and I remember that I was having this long conversation with a friend about this, and the material, back to what you said, Bree, the material can be so important, whether it's rope or I remember I had this harness that had a lot of chain to it, and the feeling of the chain against my shoulders and chest was just like amazing, and that wouldn't have felt like that with rope. Or some people, I know some people are like really into rubber or chain, but then, he said something disparaging about like, but rope that's just fucking macrame. And I thought that was an interesting distinction that was really important to him. Like it had to be rubber or chain.
Yeah. That also just got me thinking about like other ways of just touching the body.
Yeah.
And, massage, lotion. Like, of course there's all those like sex lotions and stuff, but you could use a regular ass lotion on your like body, not in your orifices, for sure not. And I find that even just like, maybe it's vanilla, but it's that can be super stimulating. I also love that as I learned through my thesis study, somebody suggested that as like even just like a fat empowerment strategy they use for themselves in order to like have really basically conditioned themselves to get back in touch literally with their body and looking at it and feeling it and knowing what their whole body is and being okay touching it and then actually enjoying touching it just simply by lotioning their body. I think that's a really like
interesting idea.
That's genius.
Fabulous idea.
Yeah.
Angela Lansbury says the same thing in that posted for Valentine's Day. She knew.
Is there a sex toy that's just you consider undervalued or underexplored? Something you think people should know about that maybe we don't?
It's so everybody's different, and it's just really hard to say there's going to be this like one thing that's going to be like dope and for everybody. But then the second question about stigma just made me think about butt stuff again, and like I'm probably preaching to the choir, like to a predominantly gay male podcast, but like when I talk to people who are not familiar with butt stuff and they're all like up in arms about it, I'm just like, you just don't understand it. Like you just don't understand it. And it took me even like, it was a learning curve for me when I got into anal. Like some of us can't just dive in. Like there's actually like some work involved in order to have comfortable anal sex for some people. And as long as you understand that and you're willing to like maintain it, then like, why wouldn't you want another thing to feel good, right? Like,
something that came to mind for me for the stigma is like most people have calmed down about dildos, but let's say you talk about getting a full-fledged doll, like a sex doll. I think there can be a lot of shame or guilt around like, it's, oh my God, it's a doll.
I know a little bit about the doll community, and it would probably blow most people's minds to find out that the people who are really passionate about dolls are barely fucking them. There is like a literal community, a doll community, and they love their dolls as companions. Some of them fuck them, but a lot of them have like personalities for them, relationships with them, and it becomes more of a companion piece. And I found that really, really interesting.
Yeah, it becomes a whole other kink. Yeah.
So Lars and the Real Girl is more of a documentary than a.
Kind of. It's a little bit more on point than you'd realize, except for the part where most of them do keep them private.
Probably would have been where I probably should have mentioned it during the accessibility portion of sex toys, but I feel like since for our core audience, I should probably mention the remote control vibrators that I've seen now.
Yes,
that seems like that would be very useful for anyone that has difficulty reaching that area.
Yeah, I also want to pitch in here. This may seem completely obvious because I think a lot of fat guys have already figured this out. But, vibrators aren't just for your ass. You can very effectively use a vibrator on your fat pad or your penis where you couldn't normally reach or where you can't really adequately stroke. A vibrator down there can work wonders.
Do you want to do your tip here? Should we move straight?
I mean, this... I think we just gave a whole lot of tips, and I think maybe this would be a good place. I mentioned Healed AF, but Bree, where should people follow you?
Healed AF on Instagram. The end.
I think also maybe they should check out your services at healedaf.org. If they're interested in some spiritual counseling, some tarot readings, a whole lot of stuff.
I brought a little bit of a bit, and I'm hoping that Bree, you'll join in and help the boys, since this is the first time the bit consists of asking them open questions that they're going to have to answer.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Oh, faux.
Yay. So I thought maybe we just dip a little bit, just lightly, into the history of some sex toys. Just thought people might find it interesting. So, question 1. According to an urban legend, which has never been proven to be true, Cleopatra invented the first vibrator by taking a gourd and filling it with what?
Snakes. Snakes.
Mexican jumping beans.
I hate that I thought this, but my first thought was bees.
I thought bees too.
Snakes.
Snakes, yeah. Asps, yeah.
I wish we could show our audience Bree's expression right now.
Don't put bees in there.
Oh, it's a perfectly safe sealed gourd.
My guess was beans, though. Yeah.
Beans?
Beans. Yeah.
I hate that I think this, but I think Trevor might be right.
With what?
You mean
Snakes.
Oh, snakes.
Snakes? All right, we got 2 for snakes. We got 1 for beans. Dan, what are you going with?
Bree's going to hate me, but bees. It's a terrible idea, but it makes the most sense to me.
All right, folks. Well, the answer is all of you should listen to your instincts, or at least Dan, because the urban legend says it was filled with bees.
No. Oh my God.
Ow.
Oh my God.
I can't
So
believe
supposedly just them trapped in the gourd fighting to get out.
Yeah, that would do it.
Tapping against the surface.
Don, I've always felt that I had my hand on the pulse of idiocy.
Oh, no.
All right. So question 2. Although it's sort of common knowledge that quote unquote female hysteria has been treated by the medical profession for literally up to 2,000 years. with prescriptions for orgasms. Doctors had to do it by hand for most of history. Though the hand-cranked version of the vibrator is used by doctors in the 1800s, an earlier version of the device was used in France around 1750, briefly, to treat female hysteria. This device was called the pelvic douche device, that was supposed to have the ability to stop the uterus from wandering around the body, causing all sorts of problems. The question for all of you is, what did the pelvic douche device consist of?
Bees.
What was it? Just in your mind, when I say pelvic douche device, what do you think?
What it consisted of? What you mean, like what it was?
What was it?
What was it?
What was
Yeah.
this device?
Well, yeah, because that's my question. I'm trying to picture it.
Oh, was it something that like? Because I'm thinking the function of a douche, is it something that like would like you could squeeze it and then insert it and then suck?
I love that your hand is making. You're
Like-
talking turkey basters, Michael. Let me look at your hands.
Yeah, is it something that you could squeeze and like suck? Like if they thought that they could literally like suck it back into place.
Oh, right. If it had wandered.
Yeah, if it had wandered.
I will give you a slight hint, and Michael's on the right track.
Oh dear.
But this was not a penetrative device directly.
Okay.
Was this like? So I'm picturing one of those
man.
things that
Douche.
like you used to use to kind of blow on fires, like the
A bellows.
like accordion kind of with handles.
Bellows.
Yeah.
The bellows.
I'm wondering if it's something that gets used externally, like on the abdomen, maybe if they're worried about the wandering uterus. Like,
So the pelvic douche device consisted of a couple of medical workers
Oh no.
basically taking a high pressure fire hose and just
Oh my God.
blowing it on the woman's genitals and lower abdomen.
Okay.
Although I will admit, in the drawing, it looks a little bit more like a fire extinguisher. So,
Many men have had that said to them.
all right, question 3.
That's not a fire hose.
In 1869, a new type of vibrator hit the scene. The first hands-free version, you might call it. The manipulator consisted of a motorized padded table with a hole and a throbbing ball in the middle that the woman was, I'm assuming, would sit on. The question is, in 1869, what allowed the ball to throb the way it did if it wasn't a doctor turning a crank?
I feel like steam power was a big thing back then.
It's a steampunk vibrator. I love it.
I'm imagining that there was maybe like one of those poles that went down somewhere, and there were people, like people or horses,
Like
kind of
turning a crank. Like
Oarsmen. There were oarsmen
like-
down there.
yeah, or like
Going in a
guys who like
circle.
would raise the anchor on the deck of a
Exactly.
ship, just like going in a circle.
I mean, I'm gonna guess. I mean, is it? It is 18. You say 1869.
1869.
I don't know. Were women given the agency to control such things themselves? Could there be?
This was used in a doctor's office.
Oh, so certainly not.
you said it wasn't a hand crank. Could it be like a foot pedal?
Like a sewing machine, yeah.
I was thinking of some sort of bulb you could squeeze.
I did say hands-free, and a foot
hands-free.
pedal would still be hands-free.
All right, like a sewing machine trundle. Oh my god.
Do people feel good with this answer? Are we going with the foot trundle?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure it's not bees this time.
All right. You're correct. It is not bees.
I knew it.
However, you should have been listening to your instincts. And Michael, it was a coal-powered steam engine.
Oh my god.
That ran this thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm picturing men shoveling coal into.
Yeah.
Whatever
I
that
mean,
was.
because there's no like tiny little coal engine. You need a freaking fire to get that thing going. So
I wish men put this much effort into bringing women orgasms as they did in 1875.
Several men gave their lives for that orgasm.
Oh my god.
It was fucking worth it.
we have our bonus question. Our bonus question is a competitive question.
Uh-oh.
All right. We are doing this one with Price is Right rules.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Can't
You're
go
going
over.
to- all of you are going to be guessing a number. Okay. Those scientists have found sex toys from quite some time ago. What is the oldest sex toy that has ever been found? And how? Excuse me. Not what is it? How old is this oldest sex toy that has ever been uncovered?
Well, will you tell us what it is?
It was a dildo, and it was uncovered in a cave in Germany.
I'm going to say 2500 BC.
Whoa.
Well, give me how many years ago? So that would be 4,500 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 300 AD.
Okay.
So
So
math
you're
again.
thinking about 1,700 years old.
Yeah, sure. Math.
Okay.
I'm
Dan.
I'm going to see if I can get around Michael's guess. So he says 2,500 years ago. No,
Dan's like
no, 4,500. He says
2499
4,500.
BC.
He says 4,500, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to say 4,700.
Okay, 4,700. Michael's got a window now. Bree, do you do the $1 tactic, or do you think it's higher than Dan's bid?
I'm gonna say 5,069.
Oh, good guess. Good
Very
guess.
nice.
I think she just won this.
And our winner is Bree.
Yeah.
Because this stone dildo was carbon dated as being 30,000 years old.
Oh my gosh. I was gonna guess
Jesus.
something ridiculous, but I was like, is that too ridiculous? So I stuck with 69.
No, nothing's too ridiculous for our show, Bree.
It's a 30,000-year-old dildo. It was found a little over 10 years ago they found it. They are theorizing that it was used practically, but they definitely believe that it was probably a fertility totem as well, something like a decoration around the house. So there you go. As long as we have had hands and genitals we wish to manipulate, we have found a variety of ways to do it.
That's a long time to keep an erection.
So if any of you are curious, I am going to be sending the Vice.com article where I got a lot of this information from to Trevor. He'll list it with the rest of the stuff. Trevor, if they want to see a link to the pelvic douche device, where would they go?
Well, listener, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars in a review on Apple Podcasts. We're on Stitcher too, but whatever. That's just the thing now. You can see links to all of the things we talked about today at our website, www.bigfatgaypod.com. Yay. Maybe
Good job.
you're holding the lid on your gourd full of bees.
Oh, dear.
And they're out and they're flying around and you're going to get stung. So
Look out.
Watch out! We actually
I think
broke
that's
my-
perfectly normal. You don't have to watch out for that. What are you talking about? I'm not afraid of bees.
That's right. Be calm.